The story begins in a world full of all kinds of creatures living alongside humans. There are strange animals, fish, fairies, and even spirits. But the most powerful being in this world is the mighty dragon. Most creatures have homes that meet their needs, and they all understand how important it is to have a place to call their own. Somewhere in a cave, a slime couple is excited to move into their new home. The man selling it to them is a demon lord, and he convinces them to buy it by showing off all its features. He watches them eerily as they sign the contract. Meanwhile, we meet our main character, a red dragon named Letty. He's been disowned by his parents because he failed to guard an egg. One night, while he was supposed to be watching it, Letty fell asleep. A hunter sneaked in and stole the egg, and Letty was too scared to stop him. When Letty's father found out, he called Letty a disgrace and kicked him out. Now, Letty is on his own for the first time, but unlike other dragons, Letty is weak and shy. He has no idea how he's going to survive in this world. He wishes he had a nest to hide in. Suddenly, he remembers a story about the 3 little trolls who were weak but built an unbreakable fortress to live safely. This gives Letty the idea to go and find his own perfect home. But on his journey, Letty gets captured by dwarves who think he's come to steal their gold. They lock him in a cage and plan to make money by selling parts of him, like his horns and tail. Letty cries and begs them to let him go, saying he only wanted help building a house. Feeling sorry for him, the dwarves finally let him go. Letty continues his journey and meets a group of harpies, bird-like creatures. They take pity on him and offer to let him stay with them. They even try to teach him how to fly, but Letty is so clumsy he ends up falling flat on his face. Still, the harpies are kind and suggest he visit a group of goblins who might be able to help him build a home. Letty follows their advice, but when he meets the goblins, they try to eat him at first. When he mentions the harpies, the goblins stop and let him go because they don't want to upset their harpy friends. Letty then travels to a place called Saharan, where he's offered a home, but it turns out he can't breathe underwater, so he declines. He continues east and eventually meets an elf named Dearia, a great architect and real estate agent who has been helping creatures build homes for centuries. Dearia gives Letty 3 options: build his own home, buy one, or rent one. Letty says he wants a cozy little cottage, but Dearia warns him that a small house like that won't keep him safe from heroes and hunters. Letty then asks Dearia for advice, and Dearia takes him to a temple, warning him to be careful because it's full of traps. Of course, Letty falls into a trap right away. They eventually make it to a healing pool, but Letty nearly drowns. Dearia rescues him and assures him that they'll keep looking for the perfect home. They visit other places, including a haunted mansion and an igloo in a snowy wasteland, but none of them feel right for Letty. Throughout the journey, Letty grows more desperate to find a safe, peaceful home. With Dearia's help, he eventually finds a house that feels like home, but it comes with challenges. Heroes and hunters still see him as a threat because he's a dragon, but with Dearia's guidance and the help of some monster friends, Letty finally feels safe and protected in his new home. Behind him, Letty is confused and scared. Why is there a giant, buff monster following him when he hasn't even gotten stuck in anything? He quickly realizes the monster isn't dangerous and invites him to an igloo. Inside, Letty sees Dearia preparing dinner. But before he can settle in, he notices Dearia without his shirt. And the Yeti has also taken off his clothes, much to Letty's surprise. He looks around and sees dwarves and heroes all naked inside the igloo. Thinking something weird is about to happen, Letty panics, but then he wakes up. Turns out it was all just a strange dream. As Letty continues searching for food, he finds an egg. He starts thinking about all the different meals he could make with it, but remembers how his journey started when he lost his own egg. He decides to leave the egg alone and moves on. Suddenly, the ice under him cracks and Letty drifts away. He spots a giant whale that swallows him whole. Inside the whale, Letty wakes up to find a man named Davy Jones. Though at first panicked, Davy shows Letty around the whale's belly, which is like a cozy house filled with treasures. Davy explains that the whale often swallows shipwrecks, so there's all kinds of stuff inside, from gems to kitchen items. Impressed, Letty agrees to stay for a while. One morning, Letty sees Davy sharpening a knife and fears he might get eaten. But it turns out Davy is just making breakfast. Relieved, Letty decides to leave, saying someone is waiting for him. Davy helps him escape by making the whale sneeze, and Letty is safely launched out. Back on the ice, Letty tries to catch a seal but gives up when the seal gives him a sad look. Suddenly, the seal turns into Dearia, who reveals this was all a test to see if Letty could survive in the North Pole. Later, Letty's egg hatches into a bird-like creature that calls him Papa, even though Letty insists it's not his kid. The next day, Dearia teleports Letty to a warmer place with communal housing. Letty's bird, Pip, pops out of his pouch and calls him Papa again. Frustrated, Letty tells Dearia he's not the father. Dearia explains that sometimes creatures imprint on the first person they see, which is why Pip thinks Letty is his dad. Dearia then tells Letty a story about an explorer who found a baby bird. The bird stayed with the explorer until the explorer passed away, and the bird, not understanding death, stayed by his body. The story scares Letty, but he decides to raise Pip anyway. Dearia informs him that Pip belongs to a powerful bird family that can summon blizzards when they're adults. Feeling unsure about being a parent, Letty decides to find a better home for Pip. Dearia shows him an apartment owned by a pair of conjoined creatures, but they can't adopt Pip due to noise restrictions. After several failed attempts to find Pip a new home, Dearia tells Letty that maybe he should just keep Pip. Letty agrees after he bravely protects Pip and some bear cubs from a monster. As they continue their journey, Letty complains about being broke, having spent all his money. Dearia suggests they visit a trade market to earn some cash. Though nervous around all the humans, Letty follows along. Dearia helps him get a job, but Letty struggles at everything he tries. Eventually, Dearia suggests Letty offer his services as a dragon to people who want to pretend they summoned a dragon. Letty agrees and makes some money. One day, Letty helps a shady man and ends up captured. He tells Pip to escape, but Pip motivates Letty to fight back. They manage to break free with the help of a kind monster named Steve. Steve shows Letty around the prison, which turns out to have luxuries like a jacuzzi and a gym. Though it's not bad, Letty still dreams of freedom. Letty is forced into an arena fight against skeletons, but accidentally wins by hitting them with his tail. Back in the dungeon, Steve tells him that all the fights are scripted for entertainment. Days pass, and Letty begins to miss Dearia. Eventually, the jailers announce that the Margrave has died, and they plan to execute all the prisoners. Just as things seem hopeless, Dearia shows up and saves them all with a sleeping spell. After escaping, Letty, Dearia, and Pip continue their travels. Letty learns more about Daria's past, like how he apprenticed under a giant serpent and built his own house. Along the way, Pip meets a leprechaun who needs help. Pip helps him and his friends steal a shoe to live in, but Letty scolds him for wandering off. As their journey goes on, Letty realizes he's grown attached to Pip. Though life is hard, he's determined to take care of his new son. Meanwhile, Dara tries to get away by convincing Vanny that he's not the Demon Lord, but Vanny doesn't give up and asks Dua for help. When Dua looks at Vanny closely, he realizes Vanny is the black dragon with a bounty on his head. After bragging about his powers, Vanny begs Dara to help him find a house, but Dara jokes that Vanny should ask a real estate agent instead. This makes Vanny mad, and he accuses Dara of being rude, even though he tried to ask nicely. Dara doesn't care about Vanny's attitude and tells him that begging isn't the best way to ask for help. Vanny then switches tactics and rolls on the ground, begging for help again. Seeing this mighty dragon embarrass himself makes Dara cringe. Out of nowhere, Jormungandr shows up and asks Dara to help Vanny, saying he came specifically to ask for his help. To move the story along, Dara reluctantly agrees. They arrive at Kur Fortress, also known as the Hero Guild Fortress. Dara asks Vanny why he needs a house there. Vanny says he can't magically create a house like a true demon lord, so he plans to take over a human's house. Dara doesn't like the idea and tries to leave, but Vanny threatens to tell their teacher if Dara doesn't help. Reluctantly, Dara agrees and sneaks into the guild with Vanny. When people see them, they panic and try to escape. Vanny announces that he may be a villain, but he has morals. He tells all the pretty girls to leave, and then burns the ugly ones and men with receding hairlines using his flames. Afterward, the heroes try to fight back, but Theus uses his magic to stop them, and Vanny cheers him on. Vanny then proudly reveals that he's the Demon Lord, which terrifies the heroes because they thought the Demon Lord was a thing of the past. After they defeat the humans, Dara tells Vanny that since he has a home now, his job is done. But Vanny surprises Dara by saying he wants to check out a property on the beach next. Dara is frustrated by Vanny's constant demands and tells him that he can't stand dragons like him. Vanny responds by saying Dara should save his complaints for his therapist. After bickering like an old married couple, Dara suggests that they build a house fit for a dragon. Vanny is curious and asks what Dara means. Dara says he'll get materials from friends, and Vanny can test if they're strong enough by jumping on them. But Vanny says they should just use NPCs instead of bothering Dara's friends. Dara and Vanny go around destroying multiple fortresses to test their strength. After their research, Dara concludes that it's impossible for a dragon to live in a place built for humans. So, he suggests they ask the dwarves to build a huge mansion. But Vanny points out a problem. Dwarves hate dragons. Their conversation is cut short when Vanny randomly attacks another fortress. This time Dara refuses to help, which angers Vanny. Vanny insults Dara, calling him a homeless loser, but Dara snaps back, calling Vanny the same. During their argument, a few humans lose their lives, but Dara brushes it off because it's their job to protect monsters from heroes. Later, Dara asks Vanny why he wants a house so badly. Vanny confesses that he's getting older and hasn't found a mate. He believes that if he had his own home, he could start a family. Dara laughs, realizing that Vanny wants his help to impress others. Dara promises to help, and Vanny happily flies off to find a new home. In the present, Dara finds his friends Pip and Letty exhausted. He tells them that he'll share more stories from his life in another video. Unfortunately for Dara, Hunter Hai finds his footprints and decides to make it his mission to hunt Dara down. A few months earlier, Hai had stolen a dragon's egg and encountered a red dragon. Hai assumed it was a new species because it acted so timid. Hai and his partner Albert are now on the hunt for this soy boy dragon. They search through a temple and follow the dragon's footprints to a forest. Hai is scared of the forest because of the ghost stories, but Albert reassures him that the stories are fake. When they finally find a house, he wonders if a dragon really lives there. Albert warns him not to make assumptions based on stereotypes. As they prepare to invade, they see heroes entering the house and getting attacked by monsters. The monsters reveal that their boss, the Flame Dragon Lord, is busy with a world domination plan. Hui and Albert freak out and rush to warn others at the nearest guild. The next day, Hui and Albert try to ambush Letty, only to see him breathing fire on bandits. They flee, deciding to hunt the dragon another day. In reality, it was the Demon Lord's magic that killed the bandits. Dara and Letty search through the bandits' belongings and find a girl tied up in a box. She accuses them of kidnapping her, but Dara assures her that Letty would never kidnap someone as ugly as her. The girl, Nell, explains that she ran away from home because her dad ate her cupcake. Dara and Letty help her, and soon after, heroes arrive, accusing Letty of kidnapping the princess. They fight off the heroes, and Letty invites Nell to travel with them until she feels ready to go home. Nell agrees, but quickly returns to being her bratty self. The next morning, Dara babysits Nell, and they talk about Letty's strange behavior. Nell assumes it's because Letty needs to lay eggs, which makes Letty yell that he's a male. Later, a tax counselor named Nasham shows up to collect Letty's unpaid taxes, explaining that since Letty left his parents' house, he has to pay taxes. Letty is confused because the only thing he remembers from school is that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Nasham helps Letty file his taxes and suggests Letty apply for child support. Nell teases Letty for being a loser dragon, and Nasham talks about the different types of taxes Letty has to pay. Letty realizes he doesn't understand anything they're saying. Nell and Pip later choose a new property for Letty to tour, and the group heads to a dungeon that serves as a training ground for heroes. Letty learns that if he chooses to live there, he'll become a public servant, which he doesn't want. After exploring the dungeon and fighting monsters, they realize the place isn't fit for a dragon. Just when things seem to calm down, Letty gets surrounded by knights who think he's holding the princess hostage. Nell refuses to clear up the misunderstanding because she's mad at her dad for eating her cupcake. Eventually, Letty helps Nell and her dad reconcile. The king offers Letty a place in the dungeon, but Letty decides to look for a better place. As a parting gift, the king gives Letty fairy dust so he can fly, and Nell gives him half of a fairy stone, keeping the other half for herself. She tells Letty that this will keep them connected forever. As Letty flies away, memories of his past come flooding back. He remembers sitting on his dad's head and seeing the world from above for the first time. And so, Letty promises never to harm the city that's home to his princess.